Hey YouTube, Brandon Ascari here with another great episode of Ascari Digital's Content Creator Academy, where, as you know, it is my goal to help educate and inspire you to being the best and most successful freelancer that I know you could be. Today we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks on how to make a no budget, that's right, goose egg short film. But first, let's go to the intro. Let's start diving in on some tips and tricks on making a film for $0 as best as you possibly can. There's going to be some borrowing of some kind in here without a doubt, because $0 is not possible. Even if you use your cell phone, that still costs money to have the cell phone. But anyway, let's talk about what are we going to do for the story. Well, when you're writing the script for a no budget film, the most important thing you should be thinking about is location. We're not going to be renting any fancy, dining hall, reception rooms and doing a big grandiose wedding scene in our film, because most likely we don't have access to those locations. So when you're writing your script, think about what locations you actually have access to, whether it's your home, your apartment, maybe a store that you work at, a friend's house, a friend's business. Anything like that will help really hone in and tell you what locations you could actually write your scenes in. Then the next most important thing when it comes to your script is going to be thinking about cast. Again, when you're writing the script, you may not have the budget to reimburse travel, meals, copy, credit, all that stuff for actors. So what you may want to do instead is think about friends and family who, I guess, have some big personalities that you know really well and could write into your story. So for instance, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's your child, maybe it's a best friend or a cousin or a niece, nephew, aunt, uncle, whatever it is, somebody who's got a personality that's similar to the film that you're trying to make and the story that you're trying to tell. I would recommend writing the character for them and seeing if they would be willing to do it for you. That'll save you a lot of money and help keep the cost of this film as low as possible. So far we're on track. We're sticking to locations that we have for free, people that we could access for free, and let's see if we could keep this free bandwagon going as we move on to our next tip for how to keep this cost at zero. So that helps you narrow down the cost that would go into the actual script, as well as thinking about what props you have access to. If you need vehicles or anything, try to keep that within things that you have access to for free, because this is really the only way that we're going to be able to pull off these $0 style films, is writing every aspect of production within your means and what you have access to. So we can't buy any expensive props, we can't do any cool explosions. Think about these things when you're writing the script. So moving on, let's talk about when we're going into production. Now, when you go into production, of course we need equipment. So let's first talk about camera. If you don't have access to a DSLR, a cinema camera, or anything like that, then we're going to be using our cell phone. So that way we keep within our budget of a whopping $0. And what we need to think about is what camera you have access to. Now, if you could please break the bank, spend the $10 or $15 to buying an app like Filmic Pro, ProMovie, or any of the others that will allow you to have manual control over your camera settings in the phone, similar to a camera, that would be perfect. But if not, to stay within the goose egg budget, we will use the regular camera in the phone. Now, as far as lighting is concerned, lighting is super important, oftentimes more important than the camera. So what we're going to be using for lighting, if you don't have access to equipment already, is going to be available light. So that means you may shoot during the day with your characters positioned in a way where the window will be your key light, your fill light, whatever you need. You may do outside exterior shots to use daylight or something like that to help give you the lighting that you need. Or you'll use practicals. And what I mean by practicals are lamps. So the lamps you could put closer to the subject if you need it to be brighter. You could take them farther away from the subject if they need to be dimmer. The proximity of them will help give you contrast. So for instance, if your key light is closer to the subject, your fill light is farther away from the subject, then you'll still be able to get some contrast on your subject's face and get a nice cinematic style lighting. So using whatever light you have available, whether it's the sun or practical lights in your house, you can use these to your advantage to help maintain that good old goose egg budget. When it comes to sound, this may be a problem. For no budget filmmaking, I highly recommend what I did when we were doing my phone short film challenge thing, and what I did was I made it a voiceover. So instead of worrying about having dialogue scenes where really it's going to be almost impossible to get good quality sound out of just a phone or a DSLR camera without an external microphone, what you would do is do a voiceover, which you could do with your phone, and position the people that are doing the voiceover inside of a closet with the clothes surrounding them, and that helps to dampen the sound and get you a very, very high quality recording out of the cheapest microphone possible, because it's the one that you carry on you all the time where everybody's listening to you anyway. Thank you, Apple and Android and Samsung and LG, for always listening to me. I hope you love what I have to say, but it's not really important, but I know you'll send me a bunch of advertisements related to what I was talking about. So that pretty much covers equipment as far as the no budget realm is concerned for the three most important areas, which is your camera, your lighting, and your sound. I highly, highly, highly recommend, if you don't have microphones, use voiceover for it, because it'll be a much, much, much higher quality, unless you try to ADR every single line, which is automated dialogue replacement, which basically is like you're dubbing the film in post. That's a nightmare. It's going to be almost impossible for people that are not used to it. For talent that is untrained, avoid it, please. Save yourself the trouble and, you know, hating me in the comments for it. Other pieces of equipment that you could use, if you have access to like white poster board that you used to use for science experiments and stuff in school, you could use that as like bounce boards and reflectors and stuff like that to help boost the light or reflect it and bounce it off of things. You could put aluminum or tin foil over that poster board and use it as a huge reflector, bounce the sun right back in people's faces and blind them. Don't do it to people driving down the road. It's happened to me. It sucks. But you could do that for some DIY stuff with materials that you have at home. If you want to create the ultimate budget camera slider, if you have a DSLR, this probably won't work well with a phone. You could take a piece of cardboard, put the camera on the cardboard, and slide the cardboard over a hardwood floor or table or countertop, and that will get you a nice cinematic looking dolly or slider shot, so that'll help to add production value in your camera movements. But as far as camera's concerned, I highly recommend sticking with pretty standard coverage on this stuff, your wide, your medium, and your close-up shot, getting a couple cutaway shots of important things that are happening in the story to help further the message of said story, and maybe getting a couple of moving shots here and there if it's possible. Nowadays with your phone, since it's basically pulling focus for you, since it's always in focus, you probably could do a nice slow walk. If you're gonna try to do any handheld type shots with your phone or a camera, I highly recommend bending your knees slightly. So if this is you standing like this, just bend them a little bit. That way you don't bounce as much when you're taking step. Also, taking your elbows, not holding them out. You want to lock them in like this. Lock in your elbows when you're holding, bend your knees a little bit, and then take a deep breath and hold your breath for the longevity of the movement. So and then you don't have to worry about stabilizing footage in post. So those are a couple of tricks right there for helping get you through making a no-budget film. Now, the best part about no-budget filmmaking, working with friends and family and stuff like that, is your creativity is endless. This is where you get to exercise your creativity more than you probably ever will in the rest of your career. It is this time where you should be thinking outside the box of what you have available to you that you can use to get shots that you may not be able to get otherwise. Giving you an example of something that's not free, because I had to spend like $4 to pull this off, but for an old short film that I did, I really wanted to show someone getting stabbed. It was a horror film, psychological thriller, and the actress was supposed to stab the actor to death in the film, and the VFX would have been maybe $500 to do special effects for it, and to do it, you know, you could cheat it a little bit with like, oh, cut to close-up of the reaction of the face while they get stabbed here, but I don't like doing that because that's what everybody does to cheap out, and I wanted to think outside the box how I could pull this off and not spend a lot of money. So this is what I did. I decided to take little sandwich bags, the one with the flaps, not the ones that like Ziploc or whatever. I took one of the sandwich bags. and I turned it sideways. So it had like a tip down here at the bottom. And I poured a little bit of fake blood in there, maybe about that much. And then I twisted the bag and twisted the bag and twisted the bag until it was like an airtight bubble where the blood was. Then I taped the flap over so that way the air wouldn't come out. And what I did was, on the actor, I had him wear a white shirt, and I put the packets underneath the shirt and taped them down over his chest. And I put little dots with a Sharpie on the shirt where each one of them were. I had the actress with one of those Halloween like retractable blade knives that you get for like $3 online. And what I did was said to her, look, I'm gonna film from the side so you can't see any of the dots that I put on the shirt or like the little lumps that were created, which you didn't even really see from the blood packets. And on action, just take the knife, start punching them basically with the knife, and that popped each one of the blood bags, and it just looked beautiful, and there was no cutting, so it looked like a much more expensive effect than it really was, probably close to maybe a $600 or $700 effect that you would spend in post, and I pulled it off for about $6. So just taking that example and thinking outside the box for whatever story you want to do, whatever thing you want to tell, think about how you can pull it off on the budget, on the indie, on the goose egg if you can, because that is what this is all about, especially in the no budget world. This is where you get to let your creativity shine, and I wouldn't miss any opportunity when it comes to that. So as always, if you have any questions, don't forget, leave a comment down below, but subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give me a big thumbs up because I know and hope that you like these videos. Don't forget to share it with your friends and family around the world so you could be the first on Mondays and Wednesdays to see these videos when they air. And in the meantime, I will see ya!